many parts of England and Wales. So here, with almost unbroken sunshine, it's going to feel very warm indeed, with 27 or 28 degrees Celsius in the warmest spots. But notice towards Northern Ireland, more in the way of cloud arriving through the afternoon, and also a bit of patchy rain. That might well turn a bit more persistent through Sunday evening and move its way into northern and western parts of Scotland. So a bit of a damp start here on Monday. Otherwise, though, it's all about high pressure building and temperatures rising. So lots of sunshine early next week, the odd thunderstorm and feeling hot.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks to see how you can win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Saturday night and this is the Saturday 5, the UK's biggest Saturday night TV show. Trust me, last weekend we doubled Sky News and BBC News combined. What about that, hey? What a show, that was fantastic. Lovely to hear. Renee is back as well, and of course the gang are all here for the first time. I'm Alex Armstrong along with Will Kingston, Dr. Renee Hunterkamp, Trey Lowe and Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show,
we need to talk about far left violence, Alex.
The police aren't policing, so vigilantes will.
And children as young as 5 are being asked to write Valentine cards to illegal migrants.
And I feel sorry for Rachel Reeves. And welcome to the party. Reform goes woke.
And it is 6 p.m. and this is the Saturday 5. Welcome to the Saturday 5, everybody. Of course, as you know, I love getting your comments out on air on this show. We do more than everybody else on any other GB News TV show. I tell you that every week, and you know it's true because we will read them out in Ask the 5. gbnews.com/you'll say, and while you're there, put in an Ask the 5 request because we will be reading them out at 8 o'clock. No topics are off limits. Just keep it safe for television, you know. And I want you to vote, as you do every week, on the poll for our Saturday scrap. Today we're asking, should sexuality be private? That's following Nicola Sturgeon saying that sexual relationships should be private after she refused to give details of her sexuality. And both Rachel Reeves and Kemi Badenoch have a pop at Liz Truss despite the state of the economy. We're asking whether Liz Truss was right about her financial agenda. And should you feel guilty about being British? Well, that comes as civil servants host a seminar on British guilt. Vote for that, gbnews.com/poll. We want to know what you want us to debate on. But before we start tearing each other apart, it's just Saturday Night News with Katie Bowen.
Alex, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 2 minutes past 6. Police say they've now made 200 arrests as a large group of protesters in support of Palestine Action gathered in Parliament Square. Organisers say between 600 and 700 people are attending in support of the proscribed group. Earlier, the Home Office said that the prescription of Palestine Action is not about Palestine, nor does it affect the freedom to protest on Palestinian rights. A separate Palestine Coalition march took place in London, where police say they made one arrest. The Metropolitan Police said it has drawn officers in from other forces to help form a significant policing presence. Protests outside hotels housing asylum seekers have been taking place across the country, with a heavy police presence separating protesters and counter-protesters. 3,000 riot officers were deployed across England and Wales, with hotspots including Norwich, Nuneaton, Canary Wharf and Islington. Stand Up to Racism called on its supporters to hold, quote, Stop the Far Right demonstrations in 10 towns and cities. It comes after 2 people were arrested in Canary Wharf and 2 were arrested in Epping, following similar protests last night. A total of 435 small boat migrants crossed the English Channel today, taking the number of arrivals this year to more than 26,000. The Dover lifeboat arrived into Dover Harbour just before 4:30, with the final group of 56 migrants who managed to reach UK waters this afternoon in difficult conditions. It takes the number of migrants who've made the illegal crossing since the UK-France return deal came into operation this week to 838. According to GB News provisional figures, the total number of arrivals for the year so far now stands at 26,274. That compares to 17,638 who arrived at the same point last year. A meeting between national security advisers from Europe, Ukraine and the United States is taking place today, with David Lammy and JD Vance hosting. That's as Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer spoke with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky today. The Ukrainian leader has refuted President Trump's claim that a ceasefire deal between Ukraine and Russia would involve swapping territories. President Zelensky said his country will not give up their land to occupiers, after President Trump confirmed last night that he will meet with Putin in Alaska next Friday. He added that he wanted the meeting with Putin to take place sooner, but security arrangements were restrictive. A Kremlin source said that Alaska was a logical location. And firefighters are currently responding to a large and fast-moving wildfire in Dorset, with the public being warned to stay away. Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue say the fire broke out on Holt Heath, north of Wimborne, at 11 o'clock this morning. Firefighters from 7 Dorset stations and 5 Hampshire stations are currently trying to stop the fire from spreading. Roads in the area are reportedly blocked and authorities are warning people not to approach. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Alex.
It's Saturday night, and of course you're with the Saturday 5. Over the next 3 hours, the biggest debates, hottest topics and entertaining interviews. We'll be talking to the former chairman of the Conservative Muslim Forum on those accusations that Lisa Nandy is prioritising Islam over other religions as she appoints the boss of a Muslim charity as an advisor to a new civil society project. But no one from Christian, Jewish or other specific faiths. Anyway, before we get cracking on with tonight's show, how is it nice to have the panel back together?
Yeah, it's good.
Take a moment to enjoy the fact that all of us are here for the first time in what feels like months.
Dream team.
How was your weekend off, Renee?
My weekend off was gorgeous, as you know. I was in Corfu. It took me 14 hours to get there, thanks to British Airways. But other than that, it was great.
I had a good time in Corfu. It's lovely, lovely.
Oh, it's insanely good.
Will, how's your week been? Anything exciting happened to you?
Up and down, Alex.
Up and down specifically. What happened when you were down? Let's just get onto that for 1 second, shall we?
I tripped over a homeless person, Alex. Now I'm pretty
conservative.
I'm pretty hard line on homelessness, but I promise this wasn't a political statement. I was on my mobile phone on Regent Street wandering along, and I have unfortunately tripped over a homeless person.
You were very lucky that a mobile phone stayed in your.
Yeah, that is right. Well, I looked at those wonderful new purple lines, from Mr. Khan.
Oh, so you walked too close to the walls over the road.
Yeah. So I was moving. This is the problem with this city. I was trying to avoid the people stealing my phone, so I had to move a bit this way, and then obviously I tripped over a homeless person.
Yeah, somebody else's fault.
Stepping on the homeless. Typical migrant. Shrey, how was your week?
It's been good, obviously. Fatherhood duties obviously dominates most of it, but I had a really great podcast this week, actually. In fact, it was yesterday, which was absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic.
Was it as good as being on this show? Nothing's as good as being on this show.
Of course it is. Britain's #1 TV channel as well. The #1 news channel, shall I say. Kai, what about you?
Yeah, I actually bumped into one of our avid viewers, Akushla, and her mum, shopping the Zara sale. But I have to apologise because I promised them that I would wear a top, but it's not this one. So I managed to
you
get
have a
pastels
top
all
that
over.
is worse than that one.
Okay.
Wow. Terrible. I'll get you back.
There's a slight fashion trend with the lefties, isn't there?
Try my best.
Yeah, OK. Well, fair enough. OK, well, I'm going to kick us off because this is quite a serious topic and it's left me relatively infuriated having read it this week. Children as young as 5 years old are being told to write Valentine's Day cards to illegal migrants and asylum seekers, scribbling heart-shaped notes saying, "You are welcome here," in Labour-run Birmingham. This is the work of Schools of Sanctuary network spanning 1,200 schools across the UK, turning classrooms into activist hubs. But that's not it, because it gets worse. Some schools are holding special refugee days with asylum seekers giving talks to young kids who are then directed to craft the welcome messages. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has nailed this. Labour's turning classrooms into propaganda hubs. I couldn't agree more. But meanwhile, we've seen far too many cases of child rape and sexual abuse cases linked to illegal migrants for this surely to be deemed acceptable. Well, Birmingham Council's ducked any blame, saying it's a national scheme by the City of Sanctuary network, which they joined in 2015, boasting about migrants as the cultural capital. Well, the Sanctuary folks call it a kind act of welcoming. Some of you might nod along to this, though. Some of you might say this is a nice thing to do. But picture this. Your 5-year-old writing a Valentine's Day card meant for secret crushes and secret loves, by the way. That's how we know what a Valentine's Day card is in this country. To someone from a culture where 12 years old is seen as old enough for consent. Think of a human rights lawyer who will potentially twist that into a defence for an illegal migrant claiming they're confused about our laws. Wake up, people. This is a slippery slope. This is not compassion. It is ideology. It is weaponising children in their classrooms. Leave them to learn, not to push your politics. And just on this topic, I want to thank Charlotte Gill. She's an independent journalist. She has been working very, very hard on this story. Will, I will start with you. What do you make of this story? It was of course, in the national news today and reported by Charlotte Gill over the course of the week.
Yeah, and then nicked by the Telegraph, I noted. Alex, this is just gross. There's no other word for it. It is gross. I think it's gross getting 5-year-olds to send Valentine's cards full stop. It's even worse that they're sending Valentine's Day cards to random men, and then it is absolutely morally reprehensible that they're sending them to random men who we now know have a high statistical probability of going out and committing sexual crimes in this country. It is disgusting. It's propaganda. I just cannot understand what would be going through the minds of teachers or this particular charity to get them to do this.
I mean, look, whilst I agree with everything that Will says, the reason I am horrified by this is that school should be a place of safety, but it should also be a place of education. Our children should be being taught at 5 how to read and write and learn maths and how to make relationships with their classrooms. They should not be being taught anything about this, about sexuality, about the trans stuff, but our schools and then our universities have become propaganda hubs designed to turn out these woke young adults who agree with this ongoing narrative of one global world. It's a disgrace.
Kai, listen, my biggest problem with all of this is quite simple, really. A Valentine's Day card is an announcement of love for somebody. It's a secret crush. That is how our society and our culture... Tell me if I'm wrong, by the way. I mean, tell me on your side if you all think I'm wrong, but this is how it's been known to go down in my entire life. You write a Valentine's Day to someone you're in love with or you'll secretly have a crush over. Is this not sending an extremely dangerous message when you're coming from 5-year-old children?
I think the framing of them as Valentine's Day cards is a bit misleading, really. They're welcome letters. You can't really control what a kid does, how they interpret it. They're 5-year-olds.
But it's not how the child interprets it, it's how the man, the 40-year-old...
And the anonymised letters, right?
But they're coming into classrooms, Kai.
You talk about education, Renee. I would rather that we don't turn a blind eye to the horrors that unfold all across the world, day in, day out, to Afghans, to Syrians, to Iranians. I don't think that welcoming those people into our country, trying to make it a cohesive environment, trying to improve integration is a bad thing.
We don't have to turn a blind eye, but 5-year-olds should not be worried about horrors around the world. I turn my radio off.
This is not new.
Yes, it is.
No, it is not new. We did, in primary school, Operation Christmas Child. I'd imagine that people like Alice and many of us actually would have,
where you
pack a shoebox full of things, gifts for Christmas, and send those off to countries across the world.
To Africa, hang on.
No, all across the world.
Hang on,
because we don't. What Renee just said.
You're being outrageous.
No, I'm not.
We used to send gifts to kids in Africa, children in Africa, not 40-year-old men that are living in this country potentially down the road from these children whose schools they are visiting. Come on, Kai, this is nonsense.
But Renee was saying that we shouldn't be educating primary school children about the horrors that happen across the world. Well, that's what we were doing. We were learning that we're quite lucky in this country, that we live in a democracy, we live in quite a safe community, and that we're welcoming of people from all across the world who want to make a living in. I think that's a good trait.
Oh, it's a hard one, guys, because I don't actually know the details inside. But I am a bit inclined to agree with Kai. I think there's nothing... You've got to think, right, a lot of the migrants that come over, a lot of them who are actual refugees, and ones that are granted refugee, people like my wife, they do deserve the kind of love, the care, the understanding. There's nothing wrong with that. Some of them are coming from absolutely horrific parts of the world. There's nothing wrong with that necessarily. You know, I can't disagree
Talk
with
about
that.
the 5-year-olds, mate. That's not the story. We're talking about the fact that 5-year-olds are sending letters to economic...
But that's the thing. No. From that point of view, because I don't know enough about this story. From that point of view...
We've just talked about...
Yeah, no, but is it Valentine's Day or is it some sort of welcoming stuff?
That's
very different.
It's irrelevant.
If it's Valentine's...
a great deal.
If it's Valentine's, absolutely not. It's indefensible, right? But if it's some sort of welcoming to people who generally have been through horror, I mean, it won't just be men, it'll be women, it'll be children, it'll be lots of people, I imagine, just generally migrants. There's nothing wrong with that. If it's just to men, of course, that's going to be an issue.
There's no place in our 5-year-olds' education to even worry them about this kind of nonsense.
When we were kids, like you said about Africa, we used to worry about people in Ethiopia that were starving. We would worry about people in war-torn countries. We would worry about a ton of people around the world. Isn't that the right kind of values to be sending to people, to have some level of compassion for people?
Can we also just stop lying to the audience? We now know that somewhere between 80 to 90% of the people who are coming into this country are not coming as genuine refugees. We know this now. It is beyond debate. Stop misframing the argument.
Yeah, can I just say my big worry with this, and this is what sparked national protests this weekend, is that parents are concerned about the safety of women and of children in this country. And I think the look that this gives, and you can make the argument that it's a nice thing to do, and we should be welcoming to genuine refugees. If they are genuine, I agree with you, and many people would agree. But we do know that, I mean, I strongly believe 8 out of 1, even 9 out of 10 of them are not genuine refugees. And also we know there is a danger to children, there is a danger to women. And I think, fairly, that is concerning hundreds, thousands of people up and down this country. And then to see that kids are being at school told to write heart-shaped cards, like Valentine's Day cards,
Alex,
to grown men is wrong.
Alex,
it's a wrong thing to do.
What you're doing is you're highlighting something else. We're now saying to these young children, these are nice people. Send them a card, you can trust them. So when they're 9 and 10 and they get approached by the nice migrant down the road who then sexually assaults them, they might do that because they're more trusting. There is no...
And we're also sending the message to migrants inherently who don't often have an understanding of consent and the way that we choose to treat children and women in this country.
That was
that
my other concern.
This is something...
Guys, if we're going to paint it that way, there's no way I'm going to defend that. You know that. But there seems to be this picture of painting just migrants. Because if that's the case, would we not then extend that same concern to, you know, members of the clergy, for instance, who are found to be doing that?
I do not.
Is the outrage only when the perpetrator is a migrant? Or is it a genuine... There's lots of homegrown people.
It's not, but we also haven't seen any stories of kids writing
no, but
to their
it's
local
true,
priest,
though. It
right?
does seem something like...
I just think on this matter, I think the point is this. First of all, we are seeing ridiculous cases go through our court system where people are getting off, being deported for the most ridiculous statements. And one of them, I think, will happen is if a migrant has received a love letter from a child and then, you know, hypothetically does something to that child which is so sick I won't even mention it on TV, then that is a defence for them, right? And even one excuse is one too many.
Yeah. And trying to answer your question...
I'm not political temperature is just not right for us.
100%. You guys know. I'm a recent father. One sec, Will.
Yeah.
I will not condone that in the way that you say. Absolutely not.
Yeah,
I'm sure you wouldn't either.
Not in the way
that's been said.
But I think that's what
if it's been done in a sense of welcoming people who've come from hardship, fine. That's okay.
I think the difficulty is, because we've got to wrap this up, the difficulty is how do you distinguish that? And we can't distinguish that. And when we see what we're seeing at the moment, it's very hard for even a single one of these to be justified, in my opinion. But anyway, look, I want to read out what Birmingham City Council has said. They have stressed that the scheme was a national one launched by a charity city sanctuary network and was independent of local authorities. The spokesman said, schools apply independently to become schools of sanctuary. In a diverse, welcoming and inclusive city like Birmingham, it comes as no surprise that several schools across the city have signed up independently to be a school of sanctuary. Cities of Sanctuary UK, which operates the network, said that they are not directly involved in the delivery of activities in schools, but they understand that the welcome card activity reference involved children writing anonymised letters to welcome people of seeking safety in their communities. They added, we are confident that teachers adopt rigorous safeguarding approaches when undertaking any activity in school in line with their responsibilities to ensure every child is safe.
Cop out.
OK, right. After the break, Will Kingston's going at it. Will, what have you got for us?
Just another update about the kind and compassionate left, Alex. I'm looking forward to it.
Okie dokie. Look, stay tuned. I'll be reading out your comments after the break. Stay with us. It's the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, everybody. My panel's quickly getting off their phones in the break as they continue that very fiery debate and won't stop talking.
Got to get my hinge in at some time, Alex.
Yeah, it's constant on this show. I'm just going to read out some of your comments. Angela says, welcome back, everybody. Big hugs to you and a beaver hug for Kai. Yeah, it's a beaver hug for Kai. Kai might be doing some more beavers later, so stay tuned for the beaver.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick look very, very quickly. Janet says, talking about that last topic there, this is outrageous, makes me so angry. They need protecting from these men. It must stop. Jules says, Valentine's cards to a stranger from another country from a child is totally out of order and it gives the wrong message. Marilyn says, quite agree, Alex. Children should always be wary of adults whilst young. If these cards were children from other children, that's OK, but it's to men, and that is completely out of order and unsafe. I could not agree more with all of you at home. Anyway, let's move on to Big Willie Kingston. Big Willie, what have you got for us?
Yes, thank you, Alex. It's nice to hear that our audience has more common sense than some people on the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, our very own Sophie Reaper got an unfortunate insight into the kind and compassionate left yesterday. She was swarmed by counter-protesters in Altrincham and then clocked on their head with a placard. I don't particularly want to watch the footage again, but I think it's important that we do. Let's see it.
I'm just being harangued here. Oh dear, it's become... I'm just going to get on the other side of the police line, Michelle. The police have... Your side. Excuse me, what do you mean? What do you mean our side, sir? Whoa, ow! I've just... Michelle, I've just been hit by a placard on the head by one of these counter-protesters. We are just trying to give them the opportunity... Excuse me, ma'am. We are, of course, just trying to give them the opportunity to have their side.
Well, what a wonderful job she did in incredibly difficult circumstances, but enough is enough. We are continuously told by leftist politicians and by the media that it is the far right that we should be worried about when it comes to political violence, when in the UK, in fact across the Western world, it is almost invariably political violence that comes from the left. And here's the thing that you need to know. This is not a bug. This is a feature of far left politics. They have convinced themselves in recent decades that words are violence. And when you say that words are violence, it then becomes legitimate to respond to words with violence. We need to call this out because these people are so convinced in their own moral rectitude that they will continue to be violent towards the media and be violent towards common sense, everyday people. It is wrong. We need to reframe this conversation because the left that are the ones that are creating a toxic political and social environment in this country. And this was just a sad and small example of that.
Yeah, Will, I actually went to a Palestine Action protest the first weekend they were prescribed a terrorist organisation, and it bewildered me the fact that they didn't want to have their opportunity on our channel to reach people they wouldn't normally reach and get their voices heard, because I wasn't there. them. I was asking them very fair questions. What do you make of this prescription? Do you think your freedom of speech is under attack? And they just shouted and screamed. There's men jeering at me, coming at me with this bloke from America, coming at me with his Bible. Like, what are you doing here, mate? But it's a common theme, isn't it, unfortunately? Isn't it, Kai?
That is such...
Is that how you spend your weekdays?
So ridiculous. And Will, I'm just going to ask you to actually stand up what you said about the far left being responsible for the vast majority of political violence, not only in the UK, but the Western world. I would question your facts, because actually, here in the UK, where was your anger when we were firebombing migrant hotels? Where was your anger when two MPs were killed in the last few years? Where's your anger? I'd never see that from you. And you claim that the far left is responsible. But that's just what you're telling the audience, and you have no stats to back it up.
I don't condone that aggression or that violence, but it is almost overwhelmingly on the left, not the right.
But where are the stats? You're just saying that.
I don't have a textbook in front of me, mate, but you can feel it at the audience at home. You know that this is happening. But it is the trend that happens because, as Alex said, the debate is not a part of the leftist playbook anymore. The idea is to shut down debate. It is to censor, to stop. And so when that happens, the only way that you really have a legitimate way to stop this sort of conversation is to be violent.
1 second, I just want to play you this clip from a protest. I believe one of our reporters at just the other day. Let's play that clip now.
Right, I mean, these hotels, nobody was using them. They were hemorrhaging financially. And I'm not happy that these hotels are being used. Neither are the asylum seekers. They want the right to work. You know, I've been part of different campaigns where we're saying, look, you know, if somebody's claiming asylum, give them the right to work. They want agency in their life. They want to pay back to this community who's given them sanctuary. Who wouldn't?
Yeah, that was Salman Mirza there from Stand Up to Racism. And you know, look, this is what we do in GB News. We want to hear both sides of the argument. We don't want to live in a vacuum. That is the reason why we have such difficult debates here on this channel from all political persuasions. We want to hear everyone's perspective, even if people might disagree with it watching at home. Anyway, let's move on there, Renee.
Yeah, so this kind of throws back to the last topic, actually, because it goes back to the indoctrination of our young people, so that when they come out of their university and they're standing on the streets, you know, with their placards for what they were told they must support when they were in school and university. They do that, but they are unable to argue it because they've been so cosseted and so brainwashed that they have no idea how to confront difficult ideas and how to debate them. And this is the result. They have now got this super feeling that everything they have in their head is right, can't be debated, won't be debated.
Yeah, can I just... Scott, I want to bring Trey in on this conversation as well. It seems to me that we look at some of the footage, some of these protests, and one of the big problems people feel about why there is so much violence on the left side of things is because they're bussed in. They seemingly come from outside local areas and agitate local people who have every right in their local areas to protest what is going on in their towns and cities across the UK. It feels like many of those people, we saw the police sort of escorting them at least back to train stations, they are not from local areas, and therefore that's why the violence needs to spark up.
I think it's simple, guys, and I like what you said, and that's what I love about GB News. I think for a lot of people, the perception is that GB News, some of it, elements of it, is fueling some of this. So even the people coming in are from anti-racist parties, anti-racist groupings. I don't know if you guys have ever been the victim of any racial attack. I've been. When I was 17, I was punched in the face and threatened to be thrown into the Grand Union Canal. And I don't think you guys have got it. The rhetoric has changed in this country. I'm very much a centrist. I can see all sides of the arguments, but it's getting to the point where people are in danger. You know, my wife's family was attacked. They had hijabs on, they were attacked. It was actually an anti-Iranian thing, and they were physically attacked. When you don't have any nuance in these conversations, people are seen as the bad guys, and they're attacked. And I commend GB News for having people with different views, because we should have a well-rounded discussion about it. And I think that's what's happening. People don't want to see what they see as complete racist, where everything is blamed the Muslims, everything is blamed the migrants, there's no nuance, and people are against that. And rightly so. We should have that kind of robust conversations here in the UK.
I just think on that argument, by the way, because I think this is really important, there is nuance in that argument, because the left will say this is because Stand Up to Racism are the one counter-protesting the migrant hotel protests, which are about protecting children. People are outraged because they see women and children being attacked. So what happens is the left go there with Stand Up to Racism stuff, but it's not racism they're protesting, right? They're not protesting saying...
I want to add that in. Alex, I want to add that in. This is why I disagree with Kai. I think you can't deny that a lot of people coming on the boats are single men. A lot of them are economic migrants. I would agree with Will on that. I think we should have something where we can turn them around. It's not true that they all deserve to be given a hug and welcome to the country. We can't necessarily just accept tons and tons of economic migrants. My wife came as a refugee, but she was legitimate. A lot of them are not. So I get people's anger, but it's the language that I don't.
Very quickly.
Don't mischaracterise what I say. I agree there's a problem.
A big problem.
And welcome letters are fine. That's not the problem either. But this misinformation about far-left protests, I think that's below the belt.
Everyone saw the footage.
There's no proof.
Everyone saw the footage.
The debate is over. Thank you for joining us for this last segment. Here, we'll stay with us after the break. Saturday with more big debates coming up. Who's coming up next?
Me.
Renee, what have you got for us?
I'm going to talk about how the police are no longer policing our streets, so vigilante groups are taking over.
OK, you're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned with Saturday 5. See you after the break.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The European heatwave is set to continue. Lots of strong sunshine across Europe. Many temperatures just pushing into the low to mid-40s. This in particular across inland areas of Spain. Even parts of France are going to be pushing into the low 40s over the next few days. And eastern Mediterranean, we're widely going to see temperatures in the mid-40s. So the sunshine is set to be intense, and it's going to be continuing over the next few days, along with the hot temperatures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. So the main story is just how high temperatures are going to get over the next few days, particularly in the south, but we will have a bit of rain in the north at times, and it's all courtesy of this just wiggling weather front that's going to just brush the far north of the UK over the next 24 hours or so. But then look at those shades of red envelop the UK, so turning much hotter by Monday and Tuesday. Back to Saturday evening though, and most of the cloud is melting away, so it's going to turn into a dry night for most. Clear skies as well, so some patchy mist and fog perhaps developing in the countryside in the most prone rural spots, and maybe getting down into the mid-single figures. Also, so a little bit chilly for some of us first thing on Sunday morning. But across the north of Scotland, the showers will continue. It won't be quite as breezy as it was on Saturday, but there'll still be a few around on Sunday morning, mainly across the Northern Isles, so Shetland seeing the odd heavier one, a few drifting into the west coast of Scotland as well, but most of these lighter than they would have been overnight. Some sunshine first thing for Northern Ireland, eastern Scotland, many parts of northern England and Wales, dry and sunny as well. Any mist quickly disappearing, and then temperatures really rising pretty quickly in that strong August sunshine. So a beautiful, sunny and very warm day to come for many parts of Wales, England, and particularly eastern Scotland. Here we won't have quite the breeze that we saw on Saturday, so feeling quite a bit warmer, and temperatures into the low 20s potentially here. Quite a bit more in the way of cloud though developing across Northern Ireland through the afternoons, and patchy rain as well by the evening. But as I say, temperatures above average for the time of year, and highs of 28 Celsius in the southeast of England. That rain across Northern Ireland spreads to other parts of Scotland by Monday, so quite a damp picture across many northern parts of the UK through the day. Some rain off and on, heaviest and most persistent in northwest Scotland. Otherwise, though, further south, look at all this blue sky and sunshine. So some high-level cloud perhaps, but temperatures into the low 30s and perhaps even into the mid-30s very locally through Tuesday and perhaps Wednesday. So some hot weather on the way.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Oh, it's us in here tonight, isn't it? Welcome back to the Saturday 5. This is the spiciest TV show, at least on your telly tonight. Please get in touch, gbnews.com/yoursay. I'll read some more questions out in the next break, so thank you for keeping them coming in so far. And don't forget to get them in for Ask the 5. And while you're there, gbnews/poll, vote on the Saturday scrap you want us to talk about. But anyway, now it's time for our next debate. Who's coming up next?
Me.
Go on, Renee.
OK, so often our hapless MPs are telling us that crime is on its way down, everything is rosy in the garden and we have nothing to worry about. But we know that that's a lie, don't we? We know that if you take your phone out in London, it's likely to get snatched out of your hand. We know that the stats show us that 5.4 million people last year were victims of violent crimes against the person. In Bournemouth, once known as God's quiet waiting room for the elderly, they are now a UK criminal hotspot. And the residents there are so tired of it that 200 of them have got together and they've made their own vigilante group to police the streets. They call themselves the Safeguard Group Force, and their stated aim is to protect the citizens of the town, especially women, children and the elderly. You might say huzzah, as Will would say. Labour MP Jessica Tolls disagrees. Jessica says that it's dangerous, that these people shouldn't be donning fake uniforms, and it's a recipe for disaster. Well, do you know what, Jessica? You might have been right once upon a time, but most of us can see with our own eyes that the police are too busy surfing the internet, looking for hate crimes online where they can lock people up faster than you can say far right, than to go out and actually solve crimes that are affecting us every single day. So maybe vigilante groups are a necessary evil. So instead of giving interviews, criticising these people, why don't you get off your green bench, come down and live with the real people and experience what they're experiencing, and then make the changes to give the police back their powers, allow them to be tough on crime, get the actual criminals off the street, not the keyboard warriors, and maybe we wouldn't need vigilante groups.
Yeah, and we are seeing a significant rise in this sort of vigilantism, aren't we? Robert Jenrick sort of, I don't know whether he sort of started the trend, actually. He might be responsible for it, so fair play to him if he has. Obviously, I want to say that, you know, just for the audience sake, there should be limits on your vigilantism, because I don't want people getting so confident and they get in trouble or they get, you know, attacked or hurt. So please bear that in mind at home.
And it's important that this group is talking to the police, Police. They also have a website and a complaints procedure. They wear bibs so you can see them. So they're trying to do it properly.
Yeah. Trey, what do you make of vigilantism in the UK? Do you think there's a big rise? And is it good that there is a rise in vigilantism?
I think the problem with vigilantism is until someone gets hurt. I mean, thank God we haven't got guns routinely in this country, because it probably would be a nightmare. People are either going to be shooting the wrong person or getting shot themselves. I think on the, you know, we spoke about it last week, didn't we? Well, I think on the one hand, I think this sense of sort of men stepping in and being men, being responsible, and where they see a crime is happening, especially to someone who is clearly at a disadvantage, we step in. But I think the problem happens when, you know, you're potentially at danger of getting stabbed or something like that. So I welcome it in some ways, but in some ways I think it's a slippery slope. I think we should have more police actually on the streets.
Totally agree. Kai?
Yeah.
I think what this boils down to is around perception and reality. And bear with me on this, right? We talked a little bit last week about this, some great graphs from the Financial Times looking at the paradox of crime. Now, violent crime has been going down and down in the US and the UK, but what we are seeing is really highly visible crimes, right? Like shoplifting, we see it all the time, people getting their phones snatched, all that stuff.
Acid attacks.
Sexual behaviour kind of stuff.
Violent crime
but it
isn't
feeds into this
out.
perception that crime is on the up. And at the same time, there are some violent crimes that are on the up. But if that means that now people take things into their own hands, and at the same time we see police, you know, policing tweets and not the streets, which is obviously ridiculous, then you're going to have a rise in this kind of stuff. When actually we should be grateful that you're less likely to be getting into trouble in the streets of London now than you were in the 90s. That's the reality. That's the stat.
I haven't heard this much gaslighting satire to endure a Fraser Nelson clip this morning.
But Will,
Fraser, thank you, mate.
No, you fall into the trap of saying to people, you know the vibes, rather than looking at the stats.
I am a born and bred Londoner. The crime in this city is way worse than people think it is. The people are not reporting crime anymore. They're not reporting their phones being done, because what's the point? The police aren't doing anything. We've got sexual violence against women happening at record highs. We've got knife crime at record highs. The actual serious crimes that are really affecting people, Kai, it's really bad.
Serious crimes are getting reported. I agree that people don't report when their phones are getting snatched, but that is that's not the same as really serious violent crime, which has been on...
Very briefly, go on,
I've been
Renee.
using the tube for years. This week, in the evening, I came home on the tube at 9 o'clock. I was followed by a guy. For the first time in my life in London, I felt very uncomfortable. That's the kind of thing women are up against now.
Yeah, OK. Trey, I want to move on to your topic. So what have you got to share with us tonight?
So, am I going, or is it just
no, you're going, you're going,
OK,
mate. You're going.
so I am talking about Gordon Brown giving Rachel Reeves some fiscal advice this week. And you know what? There's a part of me that actually feels sorry for her, right? She's staring down an economy with sluggish growth, a budget black hole, and now the exodus of the wealthy. People who bring jobs, investment and tax revenue. And what's the reaction for someone on the left? Eat the rich. And on the other side, we've got the right answer to lots of things. Migrants, Muslims and Meghan. And the NHS, the cost of living and the price of bread, it's all lazy politics. None of the parties seem to have credible economic plans unless you can get everyone on side from the right and the left. I sit firmly in the middle and I despair for my country. Yes, tax the wealthy, but tax them fairly. Don't drive them out. Yes, secure our borders, reduce costs, but don't demonise desperate people as vermin. We've seen where that leads in history. See, I see no leader right now who can bridge that gap and truly create a prosperous nation, a thriving nation and a cohesive nation.
Renee?
I think the point that we've come to where Gordon Brown is telling Rachel Reeves that the way she's going to get herself out of the hole is to tax gamblers shows the desperation of this situation. I'm sorry, Trey, you're living in cloud cuckoo land. First of all, when they came into power and said there was a £22 billion black hole...
I agree, by the way.
The OBR said there wasn't. At best, they could find 9. They then gave £15 billion to the doctors and the train drivers and expected things to go well. They then decided to cut benefits. That didn't work, but they continued to give billions to migrants coming into this country, living in hotels, working on the black market. She has no one but herself to blame. I don't feel sorry for her. I'm just desperate that they get rid of her before she destroys us even more.
Kai?
Yeah. This is classic of this government, isn't it? We saw it in the spring statement. We're seeing it as they prepare for the budget.
Are you about to agree with me?
We'll get there. They're trying to plug little gaps in what is just an unsurmountable black hole at this point. And what they need to do is trash these stupid fiscal rules that Rachel Reeves has set herself.
Yeah.
And actually maybe go back on some manifesto pledges. Things have changed, right? We are being asked to commit to higher and higher defence spending based on growing wars across the world, and they've faced up to the reality that things were worse than they did.
Let's things have changed.
Maybe some of the...
Hang on, because you've spoken those. Things have changed, haven't they?
And quite frankly,
people blown the budget.
Yeah, exactly. And quite frankly, people don't want to hear you, they want to hear me. Kai, let's just...
The egos won't get out of the studio.
Let's just ditch the fiscal rules so we can borrow more and more as we head directly towards a currency crash. The problem with this government is the only way they know how to address an economic problem is to raise taxes, and you cannot raise taxes any higher in this country.
But wasn't it the Tory government that was the same?
Sure, they were rubbish as well. Sure, they were rubbish as well, but it has obviously got worse, and the reason for that is they don't know how to grow an economy. And the only reason way you can grow an economy is lowering regulation and lowering tax, and their instincts are to do the opposite.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Right, well, coming up after the break, we have loads more for you. Kai, what have you got for us?
Oh, yes, it's ID cards, mental health testing. Is reform going woke? Join the party.
Ooh, I think that's going to enrage you. Get yourself ready on your series. We'll see you after the break.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GBNews family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script. You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week. Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Oh, okay, everybody, welcome back. Let me get some of your comments in here. Let's have a look, shall we? Grumpy Grandad. I was starting to like Kai, he said. Starting to like Kai. Then he said London is safer now than it was in the 90s, and it's just complete nonsense. He also did ask if you could put the beaver suit back on at some point.
I did actually, as you know, buy the beaver suit, so it has to make a reappearance.
I think you should. I think you should challenge you to do it before the end of the month. Peter Marsden, it says here, this is a good one. Which man on the panel is in the SAS, the Starmer Admiration Society? I think that also might be Kai, believe it or not. Gwyn says, Kai, the left protesters are absolutely disgusting, horrible people who don't want to listen to anything like common sense. Do you agree?
They don't have much common sense, the left protesters. That doesn't make them violent.
OK. Neil has said knife crime in London is up 65%. Kai, sorry, there's a lot of Kai love going on. And talking of the devil, he's now... Well, we're going to hand it over to him.
We're rebranding hate to Kai love. No, I mean, it's been ID cards, mental health and trans prisoners. Has reform gone woke? Join the party. Yes, this week... Politics Home, reported that Reform is sending their candidates for psychiatric evaluation. Well, get out the party poppers, just remember the trigger warnings. Now, as well, Anne Widdecombe this week clarified their stance on trans prisoners, telling Kemi Badenoch she needs to grow up and tell us if it is Conservative policy to put trans prisoners in danger. Well, get the vegan, gluten-free celebration cake out, as long as it's non-denominational, of course. And finally, the third story this week. Sarah Pochin says she doesn't see the problem with digital ID cards. Well, Tony Blair's joined the party, grinning a Cheshire Cat grin with a piñata saying privacy. Welcome to the party, Reform. Have they gone woke? What do you all think?
There's been a huge backlash over the last week at some of these comments. Of course, like on the ID card, Sarah Pochin has said that it was her personal opinion, not party policy, just to clarify. And Nigel Farage has come out and said that actually this is not party policy, the trans stuff. However, it was said during the press conference. And I think, you know what, that this is not what Reform's base would agree with. I think most people in Reform will be upset about this. What do you think?
He also hasn't
actually said it, Alex. He came up with a tweet that said...
On a tweet, sorry, I should have clarified. On a tweet,
He came up with a tweet that said, I have never. That isn't about what I believe now. And I don't care. With Anne Widdecombe, who was very clear that she believes that under certain circumstances men should be in prison with women, I think Nigel needs to stand up and say, I'm the leader of this party. When I am Prime Minister, there will never be a man under any circumstances, and you know how I feel about this, in a female prison.
Yeah, I agree with what Kai said. I think there are real causes for concern here. This was a spectacular own goal by Farage. It is literally the only issue, the culture wars issue, I should say, that the right has unambiguously won, and he decided to take a left-wing position on it. It's extraordinary. And I don't know whether it is an ideological position or whether it is just he hasn't thought it through.
Yeah, so it seems to be the latter because, of course, we had that tweet come out to clarify from multiple members of the Reform Party. Is there a point here, because it's unusual coming from you, Kai, is there a point here to be made on balance that this is a nuanced debate and that if a man has had a full sex change, for example, I don't know what they call it, it's not a sex change, I got in trouble for saying that last time, it's something, you know, a full...
reassignment.
Thank you very much, Doctor on the panel. And that, you know, they've been going through hormone therapy, that they shouldn't be going to a man's prison.
Well, I think so. And actually what Anne Widdecombe said in her piece for GB News is that people who have gone, in her phrase, the whole hog, which is interesting phrasing, it should be in women's prisons because they don't pose a risk to other women.
Nonsense.
And they present as female, they have breasts, for instance. But that aside, actually, to the point that you were just discussing, this is reform having to grow up now that they're much more mainstream, pulling from lots of the mainstream parties their support, and having to figure out very quickly their policy stances on a whole range of issues that they haven't thought through.
OK, so hang on, because I need to bring Trey into this. Trey, is reform being mature by having a nuanced discussion about
Kai
this?
is absolutely spot on. What you're going to see is, as reform get closer and closer to actually forming a government, they're going to look a lot more sensible. That sensibility is going to look woke to some people. Some people are going to feel betrayed. But it's the only way that they're going to be able to govern. It's as simple as that.
OK.
Some of it you're going to welcome it, some of it you won't. But it's going to be the only way you govern a country with so many different and disparate opinions.
I'm sorry to disappoint you two men at the end of the counter, but everything you've just said is illegal. The Supreme Court has ruled that as far as sex is concerned, biological sex is the only determinator. And it's all very well saying if someone's had their willy chopped off or they've taken hormones, they're not a threat. Firstly, hardly any men, 95% of them, keep their penis. Secondly...
They wouldn't be covered in this.
Secondly... They're still 6 foot tall. They've still got the muscle mass, the bone strength and everything else. I'm sorry.
And they're still a man.
They're still a man. But this is not a woman's problem, Kai. It's not my problem to solve. It's your problem as a man. Find them a space in a man's prison where they'll be safe. Don't put them on my doorstep.
Just to be clear, so when I'm saying I'm talking about maturing in lots of areas, I think perhaps that there hasn't been an actual cohesive policy that's been formed on these issues. When I'm talking about generally what you're going to see from reform is what's going to look like a lot of sensible type of ideas. Because what you say when you're in opposition or when you're not in government is going to be very different from the reality of being in government. I think it's a sensible thing.
OK, Freddie here on your say said this, Will. The problem is Farage is trying to be all things to all people, and that doesn't work in politics. What do you make of that?
Well, we need conviction politicians once again. The whole problem with that Conservative government is that they just did what they thought was going to be popular, and in the end they weren't even good at that. We need to actually hear a politician that has conviction. The problem I have with Farage at the moment is I don't know what he stands for.
OK, interesting.
Apart from immigration.
Kai, is he trying to be two things? Is this what Keir Starmer's been doing wrong?
Yes.
Everything to everybody?
Yeah, because the reason the Labour Party are losing support is their support was so broad but so shallow. And that's why they've lost support so quickly. But if reform, you know, then win all these new MPs and have this sort of grab bag of policies that they're not quite sure about, it's going to be chaos. It's going to be even more chaotic than the current government.
That's not possible.
You wait and see.
We don't know. We don't know.
Never say never, Renee.
This has been one of the fieriest shows I think we've had so far. So it's so good to have the whole panel back. Now, listen, after the break, we're going to be giving you the results of the GB News poll on our Saturday scraps. So get involved, gbnews.com/poll while you still can, and you can vote on what we're going to scrap on. And, of course, we've also got a big interview coming up in the next hour or two, so stay tuned for that. And loads more. And let me tell you, we have some very big topics coming up in Bunch of Five. And, of course, coming up from 8, Ask the Five. So get your questions coming in. Anyway, look, I want to read some more of your questions out after the break, and we'll see you very shortly.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. So the main story is just how high temperatures are going to get over the next few days, particularly in the south, but we will have a bit of rain in the north at times, and it's all courtesy of this just wiggling weather front that's going to just brush the far north of the UK over the next 24 hours or so. But then look at those shades of red envelop the UK, so turning much hotter by Monday and Tuesday. Back to Saturday evening though, and most of the cloud is melting away, so it's going to turn into a dry night for most. Clear skies as well, so some patchy mist and fog perhaps developing in the countryside in the most prone rural spots, and maybe getting down into the mid-single figures. Also, so a little bit chilly for some of us first thing on Sunday morning. But across the north of Scotland, the showers will continue. It won't be quite as breezy as it was on Saturday, but there'll still be a few around on Sunday morning, mainly across the Northern Isles, so Shetland seeing the odd heavier one, a few drifting into the west coast of Scotland as well, but most of these lighter than they would have been overnight. Some sunshine first thing for Northern Ireland, eastern Scotland, many parts of northern England and Wales, dry and sunny as well. Any mist quickly disappearing, and then temperatures really rising pretty quickly in that strong August sunshine. So a beautiful, sunny and very warm day to come for many parts of Wales, England, and particularly eastern Scotland. Here we won't have quite the breeze that we saw on Saturday, so feeling quite a bit warmer, and temperatures into the low 20s potentially here. Quite a bit more in the way of cloud though developing across Northern Ireland through the afternoon, some patchy rain as well by the evening. But as I say, temperatures above average for the time of year, and highs of 28 Celsius in the southeast of England. That rain across Northern Ireland spreads to other parts of Scotland by Monday, so quite a damp picture across many northern parts of the UK through the day. Some rain off and on, heaviest and most persistent in northwest Scotland. Otherwise, though, further south, look at all this blue sky and sunshine. So some high-level cloud perhaps, but temperatures into the low 30s and perhaps even into the mid-30s very locally through Tuesday and perhaps Wednesday. So some hot weather on the way.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel. Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's Saturday night, and this is, of course, the Saturday 5, the UK's biggest Saturday night TV show on the UK's #1 news channel, nonetheless. I'm Alex Armstrong, along with Will Kingston, Dr. Renee, Trey Lowe and Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show,
The Saturday Scraps coming up. Will we be discussing whether sexuality should remain private?
Should we feel guilty for being British?
and is the government prioritising Islam? We'll find out with a top Islamic voice coming on.
What's going on here?
And I said, he's cheating. I stood up in the middle of the exam and I stood up and said, he's cheating, he's the one that's doing it. And that boy ended up getting expelled.
And it's triggered tantrums.
My life has been absolute torture for the past 6 months. Horrible. Going out in public, getting screamed at. So it's tough. It's just been a constant.
Yeah,
it's not tough. It has.
Oh, such a hard life being a millionaire boxer. Anyway, it's 7 p.m. and this is the Saturday 5. Yes, welcome to the Saturday 5, everybody. You know I love reading out your comments on this show. I've already read out a litany of them. There's more to come. Send them in gbnews.com/yours saying get them in for Ask the 5 at 8 o'clock. Just put Ask the 5 in your comment and we will pick it up from 8 p.m. But before we start tearing each other apart, as we usually do, it's just Saturday Night News with Katie Bowen.
A very good evening to you. Your latest news headlines from the GB Newsroom. The Metropolitan Police have made 365 arrests as a large group of protesters in support of Palestine Action gathered in Parliament Square earlier today. Organisers say between 600 and 700 people attended in support of the prescribed group. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has thanked police for their work, adding that Palestine Action was prescribed based on strong security advice and an assessment from the Joint Terrorism Assessment Centre. She went on to say UK national security and public safety must always be our top priority and that Palestine Action is not a non-violent organisation. The charity Amnesty International described the mass arrests under UK terrorism law as deeply concerning. Also today, protests outside hotels housing asylum seekers have taken place across the country, with a heavy police presence separating protesters and counter-protesters. 3,000 riot officers were deployed across England and Wales, with hotspots including Norwich, Nuneaton, Canary Wharf and Islington. Stand Up to Racism called on its supporters to hold, quote, Stop the Far Right demonstrations in 10 towns and cities. It comes after 2 people were arrested in Canary Wharf and 2 were arrested in Epping following protests last night. A total of 435 small boat migrants crossed the English Channel today, taking the number of arrivals this year to more than 26,000. The Dover lifeboat arrived into Dover Harbour just before 4:30, with the final group of 56 migrants who managed to reach UK waters this afternoon in difficult conditions. It takes the number of migrants who've made the illegal crossing since the UK-France returns deal came into operation this week to 838. According to GB News' provisional figures, the total number of arrivals for the year so far now stands at 26,274. That compares to the 17,638 who arrived at the same point in 2024. A meeting between national security advisers from Europe, Ukraine and the United States has taken place today, with David Lammy and JD Vance hosting. That's as Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer spoke with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky this morning. The Ukrainian leader refuted President Trump's claim that a ceasefire deal between Ukraine and Russia would involve swapping territories. President Zelensky said his country will not give up their land to occupiers after President Trump confirmed last night that he'll meet with Putin in Alaska next Friday. He added that he wanted the meeting to take place sooner, but security arrangements were restrictive. A Kremlin source said that Alaska was a logical location. And a major incident has been declared as more than 100 firefighters continue to respond to a large and fast-moving wildfire in Dorset. Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue say the fire broke out on Holt Heath, north of Wimborne, at 11 o'clock this morning. Firefighters from 7 Dorset stations and 5 Hampshire stations are currently trying to stop the fire from spreading. Roads in the area are reportedly blocked and authorities are warning people not to approach. 20 homes near the Heath have been evacuated as a precaution. Those are the latest headlines for now. Now let's go back to the Saturday 5.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. It's, of course, Saturday night, and you're with the top news channel in the country on the top show for Saturday night. Anyway, I'm Alex Armstrong. You're going to have a very lively hour. Before we move on, I want to read out your comments because I love reading them out. Let's have a quick look here. I will say, I keep on saying it. I keep on saying it until they literally put that in my strap on the bottom of the screen there. Pat Riet, which I think means Patriots, has said, "Sorry, Renee, my view is that a man has had his penis cut off because a trans is still a trans man, is not a trans man. It should not be in a man's prison." There we go.
Well, he shouldn't be in a female prison, so sort the problem out. Find somewhere for him.
PW, a fan favourite here, says digital IDs. What will be next? Everyone barcoded on their foreheads. That's what it feels like we're going to, doesn't it? I'm terrified. Peter Banks says on the Bournemouth topic that Renee was talking about earlier. He said, "I live in Bournemouth and it's an unsafe area now. We need more vigilantes." The lecherous behaviours of some illegal migrants around the town and on the beach is making it dangerous. Visitors beware. And we've got some good Ask the Fives coming in too.
Alex, can we create a Saturday 5 bingo card?
Yeah,
every time you say how happy you are to answer questions, every time Ray says he's a centrist,
everyone I have a shot every time I do, yeah.
There was one viewer who complained once, I think, that in your say.
There's always
Since
someone
then,
complains, yeah.
you have been clocking it, but we have been reading out the viewer comments. That is true.
It's true. We are the best at it. Anyway, all right, now it's time for the Saturday Scrap. Well, all of you at home, as ever, have been voting as to what we're going to be debating about tonight. Here were the topics. Should sexuality be private? It's got 12%. Was Liz Truss right? Got 29%. And should you feel guilty about being British? Got 59%. So this is what we're going to be talking about. Let me just give you some background first, of course, because HMRC is facing a backlash after holding a remote staff seminar called The Guilt of Being British during office hours. The session, aimed at exploring identity and colonial history, sparked fury as taxpayers struggled to get through to HMRC on the overwhelmed phone lines. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch called the event nonsense and urged civil servants not proud of Britain to leave. Some say such events are a waste of taxpayer money and damage public trust, especially as HMRC, of course, their call service remains in crisis. But should you feel guilty of being British? Round one is going to be Renee versus Kai. Take it away, Renee.
OK, I know everybody's going to be really surprised, but I'm horrified by this training course. And, of course, you shouldn't feel guilty for being British. I am British through and through, even though I have ancestry from Holland, as many of you know. I'm British. I was born here. I'm proud to be British. Sometimes I wonder where our Britishness is going. But there are two elements to this. Firstly, identity. Secondly, colonial history. So let's just talk about identity. We've discussed it on the show so many times before. If we embedded in all of our children, from wherever they have come from, British values, be proud of your flag, be proud to be British, we wouldn't have half of the division that we are seeing now, where so many of our young people just don't know who they are. They don't know what they belong to. Being British is a belonging, and we need to bring it back into schools and teach our kids what it is to be proud. And that's not just about winning the Euros. Then, of course, we have our colonial identity. Now, of course, none of us, I think, would support going into countries, taking them over, making slaves, selling slaves. And actually, the British were the first country in the world to try and abolish slavery and did a very, very good job of doing that. But we cannot deny what colonialism also brought to the world where we were. Firstly, infrastructure. Half of the infrastructure across countries where we were seen as the horrible colonisers, like railways and water reservoirs and everything else, would not be there today if it were not for the British. Education, language, literacy was born brought to all of those countries and allowed them to advance even when we were no longer there. Healthcare. We brought all of our ideas, our education and our understanding of healthcare. Free trade. Britain helped set up much of the free trade around the world from those colonial empires. Law. Much of law in all of the world now comes from British or Dutch law because of the colonial powers that went there. And language. English is still one of the foremost languages of the world. There is much to be proud of about the colonisation of these countries, and also much that we want to learn from and never repeat again, slavery being top of the list.
Renee, this isn't a debate really about the pros and cons of colonialism, no, is it? Just to look at this seminar in particular that the HMRC put on, they've clarified now that it was to look at things around guilt, but also pride and also identity for South Asian heritage British people. Now, I'm a proud Welshman. I will also say I'm proud to be British and proud to be an European. But sometimes those identities come into conflict. For instance, as a Welshman, I know just how much, not in living memory, but not that far ago, in the Victorian era, the British state tried to stamp out a distinct Welsh identity and its distinct ancient language. Now, that means that some of my identities, all of which I'm proud of, are a bit in conflict. And all this seminar does is allow some workers at HMRC to discuss those in what was called, it's a bit cushy, isn't it, a listening group. Now, I think that's important for us because if we want to be proud of our identity, we also have to be honest about our identity. And I think people like Renee, well-intentioned as they are, like to whitewash history and make this about all the great things that Britain gave the world, while also not accepting that there are going to be culture clashes as we look to integrate Brits all across this country who have different identities that they're struggling with. So I don't think this is really a big story, to be honest with you. I think it's a good thing.
OK, the first thing first, if we did our job properly, whether it be in Wales, Scotland, England or Ireland, we wouldn't need to integrate Brits when they were adults at work, working for Her Majesty's government, because the job would have been done earlier than that. The reason this is happening is because we are still so guilty that we bend over backwards to try and pretend that the British Empire has been evil. Everything about it is evil, and let us teach you how to deal with that conflict. That's what this is about, Kai, and we need to scrap this now. We need to tell people that, yes, we've done some things we're not proud of, but they're in the past. These are the things we did well, and actually, this is what it is to be British, and you should be proud if you're part of this country.
To be honest, Renee, both of us are white, right? Neither of us are South Asian. Surprise. So I don't really think we have the right necessarily to tell people this is how you should feel. You shouldn't feel guilt. But I think it's good to have a forum where people can discuss that with their peers, just as we should be able to on this show, Okay. So, yeah, I mean, at a time, though, when helplines by HMRC are so terrible and difficult to get through, and it's reviled as one of the worst governmental agencies in the UK.
OK, let's bring it out to the panel.
They can do it in their spare time, not on the taxpayer dime, mate. Look, everyone knows there were good things and bad things that happened in the past, although I would say on balance the British Empire was a wonderfully positive thing for the world, but everyone knows it is about the balance in education institutions and in workplaces, and the balance for the last 20 years has been overwhelmingly looking at the negatives. No one's saying don't look at the negatives, but at the moment this black armband view of history is pervasive and the balance needs to be redressed.
Yeah.
This wasn't just about the negatives.
OK, let's bring Trey in.
I think this, for me, is an argument around whether we see ourselves as a British Commonwealth or whether we see ourselves more as a little Britain. I think you're right. I think, for me, even some migrants seem to be more British than the British because we've come from Victorian values that I think we hold steady. I mean, look at the decline of the support for the royal family.
It's not Victorian.
Look at the decline even in education. Look at the decline in values. Look at the decline in birth rates. There are so many things that what used to be British. I mean, half the country is atheist now, yet we call ourselves a Christian country. I think if
do you mean like migrants that are coming from parts of Africa that
have
got conservative
like
values?
Myself, Nigerian or some Indians, they do have conservative values. I think in many ways they uphold British values in some ways better than the actual Brits. They have more pride, in many ways, of being British than a lot of the Brits. I think if you broaden out the sense of what British is to an empire, it's bigger than more of the sort of Little Britain, where people of colour don't feel part of that.
You're not
thinking... And I think the second thing is this, which is a very important point, right? I think Kai is right. There are parts of our history that we should be taught. We shouldn't whitewash it. There were some horrible atrocities that happened. Whether it's the Irish famine, where you look at the Biafran War in Nigeria, you look at some of the issues in the Middle East, you look at some of the massacres in India. I don't think people should be held responsible for it, but it should be something that people are aware of, so we can all decide what being British is.
I did not once say we should not admit the things that we did wrong. What I said is it's time for us to claim back those we did right. What you're saying are Victorian values aren't Victorian values, and that's the real problem. They are Christian values.
But why has nobody defined themselves as Christians anymore in this country?
Well, that is what
you can't blame the migrants for that.
And that, well, well, you can blame migrants for filling a gap with a different religion that doesn't have the same values that you're talking about.
Or the migrants, South Asian.
I think the difficulty is that British people have lost their identity, and I blame globalism for this, actually. I don't blame anything else. Globalism was what's happened here. We've taken away British identity on the high street, for example. They've been filled by these massive conglomerates that you could walk into. Some of the cities, the things we build now, they don't even look like Britain. You could find them in America, France, Germany. We're losing what made our society culturally British. Churches on the road, going to the pubs closing down. Where I come from in northwest London, all the pubs are practically closing down because there's not any British people left there to enjoy it. So what happens is, and I think this is a massive failure of mass immigration, integration and globalism. They are trying, and I believe there is personally, I think there's been a bit of an agenda from globalists over the last 20 years to make many countries the same. They look the same, they feel the same, everyone speaks the same language, and the cultures in those places are just dilapidating, and the native people of those cultures are feeling frustrated when they look around and go, do I relate to this place anymore? I think that's where it's coming from, and we do need a national conversation about how we all come together and make that work, and how we move forward from that. A final thought from you, Will?
I agree with everything you've said, but I would add in that it starts with education, and we had this conversation throughout the morning. It is the indoctrination that is currently coming from the educational institutions from the age of 5, as we've seen. That is where this problem starts, and that's where we need to start in order to try and fix it.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. All right, well, still to come tonight.
And I said, he's cheating. I stood up in the middle of the exam and I stood up and said, he's cheating, he's the one that's doing it. And that boy ended up getting expelled.
It's not a flex, Kemi. It's not a flex. Don't celebrate snitching on people anyway. All right.
Did she think that it would be popular?
It's like the skipping in the fields of wheat. That's what it reminds me of.
But it's worse because it makes you out to be that person in the classroom.
I know she was trying to... Anyway, we'll talk about it.
Anyway.
Well, up next, though, Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy has faced a backlash for appointing only Muslim faith leaders to a civil society advisory panel. Where are the Christian and Jewish and any other religion voices in this? We'll see you after the break.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Quick comments from you guys here. Let's see. PW says, we should never be ashamed of being British. I completely agree with you there. KC says, I'm very proud to be British. We gave the world the Industrial Revolution and so much more. We are so great that people from all over the world flock to be here. They certainly do, and we can thank Boris Johnson for moving on. Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy is facing criticism for appointing only a Muslim charity forum to advise her civil society covenant. That's excluding Christian, Jewish and other faith groups. Some say this overlooks wider religious diversity. However, the government insists faith groups remain key partners in the project. I am pleased to welcome Chairman of the Conservative Muslim Forum, Muhammad Amin. Muhammad, thank you very much for joining us tonight. What's your initial take on the Culture Secretary's appointment of only a Muslim faith charity head to this civil society she's putting together?
Good evening. Even though I'm a news junkie, I actually wasn't aware of the civil society covenant until your colleagues contacted me earlier today. And it sounds like a Labour version of David Cameron's Big Society in some ways. And I looked at the membership list on the government website, and it's got lots of the kinds of organisations you would expect: the National Council for Voluntary Service, the Association of Community and Voluntary Organisations, etc., Faith Action, and they got a representative from the Muslim Charities Forum. And as you say, it is surprising that they have got nobody representing an umbrella body of Christian charities or Hindu or Jewish charities. And I have no idea why Lisa Nandy didn't include those. You'll have to ask her, but I would have expected them to be included.
Yeah, but Mohammed, I think many people will be questioning, because I think there is a sense, or at least a feeling by some people, or at least who are involved in and interested in politics, that the Labour Party and the Labour government needs to pander to Muslim groups and Islamic groups in order to win the next election and at least fight off Jeremy Corbyn's new, I think your party is going to be called. Do you think there's any truth in that? And maybe that's the reason, perhaps, why she's only appointed someone from the Muslim faith to this forum?
Well, first of all, if we're going to say anything about the Labour Party's sort of political goals, you need to know where I'm coming from as well. I used to be a member of the Conservative Party, but for the last 5 years, since October 2019, I've been a grassroots member of the Liberal Democrats. So I don't carry any water for the Labour Party. To win the next general election, the Labour Party will need to get votes from all parts of the community. That includes Muslim voters, it includes Hindu voters, atheist voters, Jewish voters.
Yes, absolutely. Let me bring in Will.
Mohammed, many people in this country are concerned about the rise of Islamic sectarian politics in this country. The memory of councillors in Leeds screaming Allahu Akbar after winning elections looms large in the memory. Are you concerned about the rise of Islamic sectarian politics?
If somebody has just been elected to the council, and they celebrate by saying God is great, I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. And I think it's anti-Muslim bigotry to claim that there's something wrong with saying Allahu Akbar.
Well, sorry, I'm going to step in there. I wasn't going to ask this question, and I understand completely why you're saying that. But they didn't say God is great. They said Allahu Akbar.
Yes, they did. That's the Arabic phrase for God is great.
I know what it is, but we're in Britain where we speak English. Why did they not say God is great?
Have you ever been to a synagogue service on a Saturday? The service takes place in Hebrew.
Well, it would, because Jewish people go there.
Yes, and a Muslim is perfectly entitled to use Arabic, but because every time they pray in Arabic.
Sure.
I'll tell you, I'll be quite honest. I tend to use English in such situations, but if somebody wants to say it in Arabic, I have no problems with that. In fact, most people know what it means.
Mohammed, would you perhaps sympathise with people who think, well, at least we don't want to see religion brought into politics, and that would particularly make British people who are, at least by the vast majority now, becoming quite an atheist society and an a-religious society, be quite concerned? I mean, I suspect perhaps some Muslim communities might be concerned if they saw large swathes of the country electing Christian groups or Jewish groups, and they were just chanting when they win in some sort of religious fashion, because I think it casts back British people, at least to a time, they feel uncomfortable with. And I think that's perhaps the point that we're getting at here, is that, and many people will also argue, there's a failure of integration in many of these areas, that those people don't represent vast majorities of Britain. They're only living in little silos, and that's perhaps part of the problem.
Well, we always need to think clearly. Nobody wants religious people trying to make laws on the basis of their religion. I don't want people trying to make laws on the basis of their Islamic beliefs or their Christian beliefs or their Hindu beliefs or anything else. I have no problems with somebody who is religious getting elected and going into politics, because religious people from all religions are motivated by the best of feelings. I have no problems with them celebrating and using phraseology that is appropriate for their religion. So if a Jewish person wanted to celebrate in Hebrew, for example, after getting elected, I've got no problems with that whatsoever. So we need to be very careful when we use phrases like keeping religion out of politics about exactly what we mean. We don't want to keep religious people out of politics. We want people in politics from all parts of the community. What we don't want is people trying to impose their religious beliefs on others, like these Christian anti-abortion fanatics, for example, that we see in America.
Yeah, and I think that possibly speaks to the point I was trying to make, Mohammed, which is that actually celebrating a victory in a political sense with a religious statement does make many people at least have concern that there will be some sort of sectarianism that follows it. But I want to pass over to Trey.
Mohammed, I think, I mean, I have a little bit of a concern, I don't know if you would share that there is this real sort of anti-Islamist sort of viewpoint that seems to be permeating everywhere. And what's your view on that?
I'm not quite sure what you mean when you say anti-Islamist viewpoint. Islamism is a political ideology that some Muslims hold, which I strongly condemn. Islam is my religion. So are you saying that people are against Islamism or people are against Islam?
I think it's sort of people who sort of seem to scapegoat sort of Muslims sort of for every problem that seems to be happening a lot in society. I can understand there's a concern for the extreme variety of any religion, but it feels to me it's becoming sort of more mainstream, this sort of anti-Muslim sense.
I share some of your concerns. I mean, again, I'm a realist. I'm 74 years old, so you become pretty realistic as you get older. When you get some Muslims doing terrible things, so for example, it's 20 years ago, 7th of July 2005, 4 Muslims killed, I think it was 64 people on the London Underground and bus. And when you see Muslims doing something terrible like that, it's understandable if a lot of other people start to develop anti-Muslim feelings. It's wrong, but it's also understandable.
Kai?
Can I just jump in? I mean, I think this is probably simply explained as well-intentioned but ultimately doomed as an effort from Lisa Nandy. I'm interested to see, what would your advice be to Lisa Nandy if she looked to actually improve cohesion in British society and British politics?
Well, first of all, the Civil Society Covenant is about encouraging the work of all kinds of voluntary organisations. My advice to Lisa Nandy, as far as the membership of that body is concerned, is either for her to put out a really good, clear explanation why the Muslim Charities Forum is the only explicitly religiously affiliated organisation that's on there, or to get some more and just recognise that she overlooked things originally. In terms of national cohesion, it's easy to get too much doom and gloom. The reality is, as the Economist newspaper has pointed out on several occasions, Britain is a superpower when it comes to integration. We are far more successful at integrating minorities than any country in Western Europe, and indeed, I would say better these days than the United States of America, which is going backwards. So we shouldn't get all doom and gloom. That doesn't mean everything is perfect. I mean, there are pockets of the country, for example, some of the northern mill towns, where you get very dense communities of one ethnic background, one religious background, and I think those are not healthy. The positive news is that every 10 years when we do a national census, we find that people of all ethnic minorities are dispersing more and more. The only community that is actually not well dispersed is the Jewish community, which is quite concentrated in parts of London, Manchester, Tyneside. But in general, ethnic minority communities are dispersing around the country. With every 10 years that goes by, Britain is more mixed than it was before.
Muhammad Amin, thank you very much for joining me and the panel tonight to have a very good faith discussion on this difficult topic, I'm sure. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to open up to the panel there and just continue the discussion for a moment. Muhammad had said there, Will, that cultural integration, it's spreading. We are the best at it in the world. He does, of course, he's fair, and he says there are some pockets where that hasn't happened. Should we be concerned that actually the cultural integration is failing, actually, rather than working? Or is it true that cultural integration has worked?
Yes, of course we should be concerned. That was a nonsense. This country is increasingly becoming ghettoised along ethnic and religious grounds. I think that is particularly a problem in Islamic communities, where in many instances some of the attitudes towards women, some of the attitudes towards minority groups, and also the lack of respect for the distinction between church and state, which is something the Jewish community and the Christian community don't see similarly, I think is problematic.
Could I just ask, is this vibes again, or is this stats? Because what we just heard was Mohammed referring to the census. Where are your stats to back this up?
I don't have it.
But this is the thing. This is the problem, right? We're having all these discussions where what I hear increasingly from this side of the table is, we all see it. You all know. But we need to be careful when it's so easy these days for misinformation to spread and for that to turn to violence, right?
We
need to back these stats.
Can you give one very, very quickly if you want?
So there are only 70,000 Orthodox Jews in the UK. They're the Jews who stick to themselves.
OK.
There's hardly anyone.
Oh, no. All right, no, we've got to stop. We've got to stop there. Right, spokesman for the Department of Culture, Media and Sport has said this: faith groups are explicitly recognised and valued partners under our civil society covenants and on the Advisory Council, acknowledging faith organisations as essential to delivering our plan for change, missions and tackling Britain's biggest challenges. The covenant was developed through extensive engagement with over 1,200 organisations across civil societies for diversity, including multiple faith and interfaith groups whose contributions helped shape the final document. We look forward to strengthening our partnership with faith organisations as we implement the covenant's commitments together.
And breathe.
Yes, and breathe. Still to come tonight, though, a bit of lightheartedness. It's Trigger Tantrum.
Get rid of these rainbow crosswalks. It is going to send a huge message internationally, because Key West is an international destination.
OK. It's Trigger Tantrums. That's coming up very, very soon. But next, a shopkeeper is visited by police for calling shoplifters, get this, scumbags. You're with the Saturday 5 live on GBNews. We'll see you after the break.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The European heatwave is set to continue. Lots of strong sunshine across Europe. Many temperatures just pushing into the low to mid-40s. This in particular across inland areas of Spain. Even parts of France are going to be pushing into the low 40s over the next few days. And eastern Mediterranean, we're widely going to see temperatures in the mid-40s. So the sunshine is set to be intense, and it's going to be continuing over the next few days, along with the hot temperatures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. So the main story is just how high temperatures are going to get over the next few days, particularly in the south, but we will have a bit of rain in the north at times, and it's all courtesy of this just wiggling weather front that's going to just brush the far north of the UK over the next 24 hours or so. But then look at those shades of red envelop the UK, so turning much hotter by Monday and Tuesday. Back to Saturday evening though, and most of the cloud is melting away, so it's going to turn into a dry night for most. Clear skies as well, so some patchy mist and fog perhaps developing in the countryside in the most prone rural spots, and maybe getting down into the mid-single figures. Also, so a little bit chilly for some of us first thing on Sunday morning. But across the north of Scotland, the showers will continue. It won't be quite as breezy as it was on Saturday, but there'll still be a few around on Sunday morning, mainly across the Northern Isles, so Shetland seeing the odd heavier one, a few drifting into the west coast of Scotland as well, but most of these lighter than they would have been overnight. Some sunshine first thing for Northern Ireland, eastern Scotland, many parts of northern England and Wales, dry and sunny as well. Any mist quickly disappearing, and then temperatures really rising pretty quickly in that strong August sunshine. So a beautiful, sunny and very warm day to come for many parts of Wales, England, and particularly eastern Scotland. Here we won't have quite the breeze that we saw on Saturday, so feeling quite a bit warmer, and temperatures into the low 20s potentially here. Quite a bit more in the way of cloud though developing across Northern Ireland through the afternoon, some patchy rain as well by the evening. But as I say, temperatures above average for the time of year, and highs of 28 Celsius in the southeast of England. That rain across Northern Ireland spreads to other parts of Scotland by Monday, so quite a damp picture across many northern parts of the UK through the day. Some rain off and on, heaviest and most persistent in northwest Scotland. Otherwise though, further south, look at all this blue sky and sunshine, so some high level cloud perhaps, but temperatures into the low 30s and perhaps even into the mid 30s very locally through Tuesday and perhaps Wednesday, so some hot weather on the way.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 PM on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What a show so far. Welcome back to the Saturday 5. The debates are running through into the break here, by the way. We should just keep the cameras rolling, honestly. Get in touch, gbnews.com/yoursay, and get some questions for Ask the Five. We've been collecting them here for you for the next hour. But now it's time for this. Yes, this is Bunch of Five. This is the part of the show where we read out other stories that have caught our eye in the week. Will, what have you got for us?
Yes, Alex, some really fascinating data that's come out of the Financial Times this week. Fascinating and startling, I would say. If we can get this data up, hopefully, team. Basically, what this study has done is it's tracked personalities over time across different age groups. And if you look at that red line there, you will see that the younger generation is getting less conscientious, in fact, dramatically less conscientious and much more neurotic. Now, as we would know, being conscientious is so important in terms of having grit, in terms of being able to solve problems, in terms of being able to work through relationships, and it's fallen off a cliff. And I can only imagine it's smartphones, it's streaming, it's technology, but what an incredible shift in a short space of time.
Yeah, Trey, you just become a father. Are you worried about your son growing up with being less conscientious?
Yeah, as Will said, I just felt a bit sad because I looked at this as well, and I wonder how much we are to blame, though, for young people. You know, we've just left them on their smartphones, they crack on, and they're sort of losing so many sense of themselves that we all, especially someone of my age, takes for granted, you know? Is it their fault, or is it just a world that we've allowed them to inherit?
Well, it's the digital world, because if you dig into the data, it's really interesting stuff. They're less likely to make plans and follow through, to persevere. They're increasingly likely to be easily distracted and being careless. I mean, these are not good traits.
No, not to mention that, also the mental health challenges that they face as a result of this.
I mean, look, the data is clear. Children shouldn't have smartphones, end of story. It's our fault, we're the grown-ups.
Yeah, Renee, what have you got for your bunch of 5?
OK, so I was quite excited this week that the Equality and Human Rights Commission has, in sort of a pre-guidance statement, said that they will ban biological men from all women's spaces and all of women's sport. And that's really good because the lobby that has worked against this guidance and will continue to work against it, they even tried to get the new chair fired. 40 Labour MPs wrote to say that the chair, Dr Mary-Ann Stevenson, was not the right person. You know why? Because she believes that women can only be born women. So they are trying really, really hard to stop this. And finally, it looks like we're going to have some guidance for everybody that's involved with the public to say, no, women go in women's spaces, men go in men's spaces. Huzzah!
Kai?
Me and Admid can agree on this issue. You know, the thing is, it will be jarring for many women and men across the country when people present very differently to how they expect in toilets, in single-sex spaces. You know, there was a level of sort of acceptance in society, I think, years ago. And what we've seen now is this constant attack on trans people has meant that they're going to face more and more scrutiny for just trying to live their lives in the gender that they identify with.
Because the vocal minority of radical trans activists and LGBTQIA+ on the far left have made this a political
let's not get that twisted. That's what you say. I say it's the influence of the far right from America and evangelical Christians in America who have brought the culture wars from the States to here.
That's so offensive to all of the brave women who have fought for sex-based rights in this country.
I'm sorry, moving on, because it's me now and I want to get a word in. Bunch of 5 for me is this. I don't know, many of you would have seen this story throughout the week, but a police officer has told a shopkeeper that he must remove a sign from his cabinets inside his shop that calls shoplifters scumbags. Because, get this, it might cause offence. What a load of rubbish. What a load of nonsense. What are the police doing? Are you policing signs to stop shoplifters being offended? Who are you meant to be offending? I really hope those signs are offending shoplifters, because who cares what a shoplifter thinks? And in fact, I think that sign is absolutely dead accurate.
I think it's too small. I think he should have made it bigger.
I hope he does.
I wonder if these shoplifters actually can read, most of them. So that's the only shame about this. They are scumbags. They are a blight on society. They are ruining everything for everyone else. These are not people shoplifting because they can't afford to buy their food. They are opportunists making the money out of the rest of us.
But they're totally emboldened, aren't they, Will?
Yeah, they are. But this is also part of a broader trend of the police trying to police morality as opposed to focusing on bread and butter crime. Saw another video during the week where some police officer visited someone who was going to go to a protest the next day so he could put a leaflet under the door to basically say, this is how you should behave.
Right. He did laugh.
Yeah, he actually handled it well. But nonetheless, the police shouldn't be doing this stuff.
Totally agree with you. Let's move on. Trey, what have you got in your bunch of 5?
It's great, because I want to get you guys' opinion on this. I've got quite mixed feelings on this, and this is about Homelessness Minister Rushanara Ali, and the fact that she evicted 4 tenants from her East London property. She then basically tried to flog the property, which is almost impossible in today's market. She couldn't flog the property, and then she put the rent up by £700. Now, we don't have a context for what the rent was before.
It was £3,300.
I don't know what that was like in terms of market value, whether that was less or not. But of course, the optics don't look good when you're Homelessness Minister and you're about to bring in legislation to make exactly what she done infinitely harder. So, again, I've got mixed feelings on this because I'm a landlord. I'd love to get you guys' take on this.
Yeah, well, obviously she has resigned now. I think she should have been sacked, personally. But, of course, Keir Starmer didn't sack her. Maybe she was, but Keir Starmer should have come out and said it. And the other stuff that really infuriates me about this is that Labour have put through a bill in Parliament that is, well, first of all, Rushanara Ali has slammed private renters for doing exactly what she has done as a landlord, but they're also putting in a bunch of things into this new bill that would essentially stop landlords from basically getting rid of tenants and then upping the price of their rent. So it's pure hypocrisy. That's why she's resigned. And I think even people on the left will agree that this was a ridiculous thing to have happened on that point, Kai.
brief too seriously.
Well, she might have done, but I think her brief was to stop homelessness, not increase it, Renee. Kai?
Yeah, no, look, I mean, if she was a random MP, that would be one thing, but she's literally the Homelessness Minister. I'm glad she gets to focus on the fact that she has a less than 2,000 majority in her constituency.
Yeah, OK. Well, a spokesperson for Rushanara Ali said this: Rushanara takes her responsibility seriously and complied with all relevant legal requirements. OK, let's move on to Kai.
Oh, let's finish on a high, shall we? Do you think we're bonkers for conkers? Well, the East Anglia University seems to think so. Take a look at this poster that has been spotted out on campus that encourages students, or really reminds students, not to eat conkers. It says, these are not chestnuts and eating them will make you unwell. I didn't think we'd actually need to tell people that, but apparently it's because 1,000 out of 17,000 of the students in East Anglia University are from China, and they're mistaking conkers for water chestnuts, which are a sweet and crunchy delicacy.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, that's not good.
Not good.
The kind of yeah, there it is.
Conkers are actually poisonous.
Yeah, all I know conkers for is that, you know, bacon. They make. Have used to have conkers. I don't know if the kids still do this anymore.
Don't think so.
Do they still do this? Well, young daughter. Does your young daughter play
Now
play
they have
conkers?
warnings. They have to wear goggles if they play
conkers.
No.
Well, if you have a moment to Google World Conker Championship, you have some fun pictures.
I love that.
Right, well, still to come tonight.
My life has been absolute torture for the past 6 months. Horrible. Going out in public, getting screamed at. So it's tough. It's just been a constant.
Yeah, it's not tough.
It has.
Where's my little violin? Trick and Tantrums is coming up next. You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
That stark warning comes as the Justice Secretary approves the trial of taser stun guns ahead of the likely rollout to male prisons.
Well, it follows violent attacks on officers in recent months by two of the country's most dangerous and notorious inmates. Mark White reports.
At this security facility, a mock scenario of the type of violence that's all too common within our prisons. But as the Justice Secretary looks on, those playing the role of perpetrators are about to face a new tactic. Tasers are a very familiar option within frontline policing. But until now, these weapons have not been available to help protect the men and women dealing with some of the country's most violent offenders. That's all about to change.
Drop that weapon, do it now!
As the government begins the trials process ahead of the likely rollout of taser within male prisons.
I know that staff have been crying out for tasers to be authorised for use across the adult male estate, and I was very pleased to be able to sign off on this trial. It will run over the summer period, and it's designed to make sure that we can learn lessons about the use of tasers within a custodial environment, which is different to how tasers are normally used.
It was shocking attacks on prison officers, alleged to have been carried out by two of the country's most notorious inmates, that focus national attention on the real dangers faced by prison staff.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Coming up from 8 p.m, it is Ask the 5. We have been collecting all your questions, so please keep them coming. gbnews.com/yoursay. But now, it is time for Triggered Tantrums. This crackpot team, this crackpot panel, has been scouring the internet for over a week to be finding the most outrageous videos and complete meltdowns from people across, not just the UK, but across the world. Just wait until you see this lot. Will, what have you got for us?
A slightly different take on the triggered tantrum genre. This is Kemi Badenoch reflecting on a tantrum that she had at school when someone in her class was cheating. Let's see it.
It wasn't just the SWAT in the class. I was the person who would say that person is copying notes from the other person. I was the tattletale in the class, like getting people into trouble. I'd raise up my hand. I remember there was this extraordinary day. I was in, I must have been about 14 or 15, and I said, he's cheating. I stood up in the middle of the exam, and I stood up and said, he's cheating. He's the one that's doing it. And that boy ended up getting expelled.
Not for the first time. She just misses the mark a bit, doesn't she?
I think she is more often than not missing the mark. That is the problem the Tories have, is that she's just not relatable. It reminds me of when she was ordering, she was bragging about ordering steaks to her desk and not taking lunch breaks, and that she said that people shouldn't take lunch breaks. It's like, how out of touch are you with the average person who values that little hour they get, that little island of break during their long 9-hour shift? Kemi, come on, don't be so silly. This is ridiculous.
But it is good to know that even at the age of 14, she was then and is a loser. Electorally.
We were having a conversation about this earlier. Do you think this is... We were talking
Guys,
about
I'm telling you, right, this is a Nigerian thing. I mean, I would never, ever snitch. When I say us Nigerians, right, are so crazy about education, she's probably thought I've been beaten, because we would get beat when it comes to education, and how dare that person cheat. And that's why it's funny when I see that Kemi doesn't identify as Nigerian. I just see this beautiful, really, Nigerian woman, and you may not agree with it, but I love her values, really and truly. But in this instant, I actually wouldn't snitch in that way. You know, good luck to whoever's cheating.
Yeah. I mean, listen, most of us have left school at some point and then never been asked for our GCSEs, A-levels, or even my university degree sometimes ever again. Yeah. So I really think getting someone expelled over it's a little step too far there. Renee?
OK, so... You've always wondered, when you go through town, what those rainbow crossings are for, haven't you? Are they to scare horses? Are they to make the place look nice? No, they're to keep the town from erupting into violence. Look, I only discovered this today.
We get rid of these rainbow crosswalks, it is going to send a huge message internationally, because Key West is an international destination. From somebody who works in the hospitality, tourism, and entertainment industry, I can tell you we get clientele from all across the world. And if we get rid of those rainbow crosswalks, that is going to send a huge message to everybody that Key West is no longer a safe and welcoming community, not only to visit, but to let alone live.
How will we cope about the rainbow crossings that people don't want to walk? How will we cope without the forced diversity shoved down our throats? How will society cope that gay people no longer have rainbow crossings? Oh no, it's all going to fall apart. Kai, this is the sort of stuff that you would plaster around the entire country had you get the chance, eh?
Yeah, why not? They look nice.
They look dreadful. They're awful.
I think they should be decked out in nice pastel shades. Right about that? Happy medium?
I think, can we just have a nice zebra crossing? What happened to zebra crossings? You know what? Zebra crossings are black and white. It just wasn't inclusive enough.
Yeah. And it's bad enough that you've stolen the rainbow from children.
What do you make of all of this? Do you think it's nonsense?
On the one hand, I get it, because I didn't know what they were when I first started seeing these zebra crossings, and I think in some ways that is a good thing, because, you know, I am definitely pro, you know, diversity and inclusion, but, you know, I can understand that some people probably think that they are too much of everywhere, but to get that upset about it is, you know, it's going over the top a little bit.
Yeah, it reminds me, there's also those, you get them in Leicester Square and other parts of London where you've got the LGBT crossing lights. So instead of there being a man and a woman and a green light, it's two men, or it's an LGBT symbol or something like that. You just think, you roll your eyes. Like, what do you think this is doing? Do you think this is improving diversity for anybody? Because I just think it makes people hate it. But I think it forces people to hate it.
Also, Alex, nobody would mind if we didn't have bin collections every week and we our money.
Absolutely.
So true.
We need to focus our money on the things that people actually want, and then And the rest of it, let someone else paint the crossing.
You know, an interesting thing, though, when I was in West Hollywood the first time, like I said, I didn't know what it was. I see all these rainbow flags, I didn't know what it was. But I felt so safe in this neighbourhood.
Yeah.
There was something about seeing these rainbow flags everywhere. In my bit of West... I kid you not, I felt so safe in West Hollywood. It was weird.
On the topic of Kemi being a snitch, Hazel has said, oh, so the panel loves cheats. I don't think we love cheats, but we don't like taking pleasure in seeing a child expelled from school for maybe cheating on their exam. I think most people on the panel would agree with me. It was probably a step too far.
Shall I tell you a funny story about that quickly?
If you've got very quickly.
Someone's famous daughter at school, where my mum worked, had all of her maths answers written up her arm. And when she was questioned on it, she said she was revising the night before and didn't have time to shower.
That's a good one. Right, I love it. Right, coming up is the Saturday 5 Extra. It's a little bit different this week because I am going to be off of the Saturday 5 Extra. Yeah, Renee has been poisoning me or something. I don't know what she's thinking. No, but I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back at 9 o'clock because I'm covering Ben Leo tonight, and I'm going to be reminding everybody from around the country why there are protests happening this week. I'm going to go through a litany of very serious things. So please come and join me for 9 o'clock. But Renee will be taking over from here, and anything can happen in the Saturday 5 Extra. So get yourself ready. The team will be back in just a moment. See you after the break.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. So the main story is just how high temperatures are going to get over the next few days, particularly in the south, but we will have a bit of rain in the north at times, and it's all courtesy of this just wiggling weather front that's going to just brush the far north of the UK over the next 24 hours or so. But then look at those shades of red envelop the UK, so turning much hotter by Monday and Tuesday. Back to Saturday evening though, and most of the cloud is melting away, so it's going to turn into a dry night for most. Clear skies as well, so some patchy mist and fog perhaps developing in the countryside in the most prone rural spots, and maybe getting down into the mid-single figures also, so a little bit chilly for some of us first thing on Sunday morning. But across the north of Scotland, the showers will continue. It won't be quite as breezy as it was on Saturday, but there'll still be a few around on Sunday morning, mainly across the Northern Isles, so Shetland seeing the odd heavier one, a few drifting into the west coast of Scotland as well, but most of these lighter than they would have been overnight. Some sunshine first thing for Northern Ireland, eastern Scotland, many parts of northern England and Wales, dry and sunny as well. Any mist quickly disappearing, and then temperatures really rising pretty quickly in that strong August sunshine. So a beautiful, sunny and very warm day to come for many parts of Wales, England, and particularly eastern Scotland. Here we won't have quite the breeze that we saw on Saturday, so feeling quite a bit warmer, and temperatures into the low 20s potentially here. Quite a bit more in the way of cloud though developing across Northern Ireland through the afternoon, some patchy rain as well by the evening. But as I say, temperatures above average for the time of year, and highs of 28 Celsius in the southeast of England. That rain across Northern Ireland spreads to other parts of Scotland by Monday, so quite a damp picture across many northern parts of the UK through the day. Some rain off and on, heaviest and most persistent in northwest Scotland. Otherwise, though, further south, look at all this blue sky and sunshine, so some high-level cloud perhaps, but temperatures into the low 30s and perhaps even into the mid-30s very locally through Tuesday and perhaps Wednesday, so some hot weather on the way.